Welcome to Divine Downloads. I'm your host, Cassandra, and this is the show where we help you divinely design your life. And I'm super excited to introduce you to Pam and Alex, the incredible creators of the Galactic Star Tarot. This episode is for you if you've ever wondered if you are a starseed or how you can connect deeper with your guides in the stars. Without further ado, let's dive in.
I'm so excited to have you guys on the podcast, Alex and Pam. I ended up meeting Pamela through a mastermind group of mine and some mutual girlfriends that we had, and I've just been totally blown away by all of her work. And Alex is her business partner, which I'm really excited to get to know a little bit more on this podcast as well. But today, I'm really stoked because we're going to start talking about starseeds. And I think this is something that has been in my life for a while now, that as I was reflecting on like what I wanted to talk about on this podcast, I'm stunned that I haven't talked about it on the podcast that much. When I look back, I don't think we've never done like a dedicated episode really going into like the Lyrians and the Syrians and Pleiadians and like, oh, how do we know for a star seed and what does it mean? And I think your deck, the Galactic Star Tarot, is really this beautiful gateway, because I remember at the beginning of my journey when I first like started having these feelings and signs and connecting with the Pleiadians. In my experience, like one of the biggest struggles for me, other than just like would just show up to my meditation practice and be like, okay. I actually also went to like the Griffith Observatory, because they have a beautiful like picture of the Pleiades or whatnot.
Yeah.
But there were just like, it was hard to find ways to like make it part of like my ritual to really like tap into these star beings. So anyway, I'm excited to dive in. I would love you guys to just introduce yourself a little bit and yeah, and how the galactic, I know you guys do so much more than just this Galactic Star Tarot we're going to talk about today. So give us a little insight on that, and then how this deck kind of came about from all the other goodness that you guys have going on.
Yeah, so Alex and I are spiritual advisors and also coaches for spiritual entrepreneurs. And we have actually just merged our business completely this year, but for a couple of years now. And it was because of the deck. Because we'll get into that story, but we somehow, the universe put us together and we created this deck and we won the contract with Hay House, and it was a wild ride, and then we merged our business. But Alex is really the galactic priestess. I actually learned most of this stuff from her. I was very curious and into practical magic. I do a lot of magic with the earth and the elements, and I knew there was more and I didn't know what it was. And Alex did channel a really powerful modality called the Awakened Bliss Codes, and that's where we kind of explore like the multidimensional galactic energies. And when I was activated, and I was like, whoa, there's so much more than just practical magic.
I love that. I love that. So Alex, how did you start on this journey to become a galactic priestess?
I mean, I've always been into aliens. Actually, like an ex-boyfriend of me sent me like a year ago a picture. He's like, "Do you remember when you gave this to me that you drew when you were like 6 years old?" And it was like me as an alien on Saturn. So I've always been attracted to this. And I think this is a theme for a lot of people who would identify as starseeds, is we always feel like a calling or a pull to the cosmos. My journey with starseeds started. Well, my spiritual journey started in like 2013. I made my business in 2018, and I really got into the starseed stuff around like 2019, 2020, and dove in entirely. And with the Awakened Bliss codes, that modality that Pam mentioned, in there's a galactic code. And so connecting into all the different types of star beings and people's connections to them, and how that, relates for us as humans now, how we can bring in that energy and kind of navigate what that means.
Yeah, and I think that it's interesting because there's like a part of me that like you were saying, was just like a seeker and was just like curious about this and was like, I want to tap into this and like this is what I do for fun, you know? Um, but then there's also that part of like, okay, well, if we tap into this and we can get these downloads, then like what does that look like? How does that shift like our now current earth life, you know?
Yeah. I
So sorry, go.
No, I think I was gonna add, like, I think for me, I was always interested too, and it kept popping up, but it was a lot of like conspiracy theories, and I do feel like there was a lot of like fear around this, and also myself, just like naturally from movies. And so when I approached this with Alex, and we did like past life regression on this, like all of the things, and I was like, wow, no, this is really expansive, and in especially for this deck, we approach in a really spiritual way. And so about the galactic magic. So it's very different from what you find out there just on the internet.
Yes. Yes. No, it's true because there are a lot of different theories and people talk about aliens in very kind of different ways than we probably are intending right now. Um, so one of the things that I love that you talk about just in the guidebook is the difference between starseeds and earthers, as you call it, which I think, and I love that you mentioned that like it's not, because I feel like sometimes in the spiritual world there's like, am I more magical than you? Am I more weird than you? Or whatever. And it's like, no, they're equal. Um, you describe starseeds as just people that like their original incarnation was in one of the planetary systems, and earthers, their original incarnation is on Earth. Um, what kind of tips for someone that's listening to this? It's like, I've always been like curious. I hear this word flowing around, like, how would I know? How can I trust it? And yeah.
The way that I think that I approach this, and Pam also kind of takes this opinion too, is we take a lot of this from the idea of the Vedas and the ancient teachings from the Vedas, right? And so this has a lot to do with soul contracts. So when we look at this, when we're talking about like earthers and star seeds, we're seeing this not as like a hierarchy. And I'm so glad that you brought that up because that is one of the things that, Pam and I kind of are trying to dispel along with like, kind of the negative connotations of like grays and reptilians and all those kind of like fear narratives. But that's one of the things that plays in as well is there's almost like this kind of disillusioned idea that if we're a starseed, we're somehow more evolved. But we take more of like, I would say, a more Vedic stance on this, as in we're all from the great oneness. We've been in maybe multiverses. Now we happen to be in this universe, and we may have lived in other galaxies before. When we're talking about star seeds, we're actually speaking strictly of this galaxy, of this Milky Way, at least Pam and I personally. And we're seeing this as a soul contract. So we hear a lot of people say, oh, I have a soul contract on this planet, right? I'm in this cycle of incarnation. And we see it also we zoom out from Earth and we see, oh, okay, I'm in soul contract also with the solar system. Oh, okay, zooming out more, I'm in contract with this galaxy. So the way that we're seeing it, maybe where we might feel an affinity from where we are from, one way that we can see this is when we say we have an origination point. So Earthers, their origination point in this galaxy doesn't, we're all equally ancient from the one, but the origination point for Earthers would be Earth in this galaxy. Whereas people from Sirius, their origination point, their first point of contact in this galaxy would be Sirius. Lyran, same thing. So I think actually, I know this might sound a little cliche, but I think there's something to it when you just look into the sky and what you're always feeling called to look at, right? And I know we have different hemispheres, so we don't get to see everything, but there could be a pull to it. Or if you start going a little bit deeper, if you have like a great affinity to cats, chances are you have some sort of a Lyran connection, right? Or if you have a great affinity to dogs, right? There are little breadcrumbs of symbolism that does help us to, we can follow that trail and see where we might have connections.
And I do
Mm.
believe that why there is a lot more star seeds is because, in Alex's teaching and also my belief is that Earth is really new. It's a new playground for souls to incarnate on. And so we've probably been incarnated in other planets and star systems and constellations. And that's why a lot of us are star seeds and not so much like Earthers.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think especially in the spiritual world, when you, at least I think in my world with a lot of people that are like us, right, that are kind of already doing this work and teaching other people how to do this work, more often than not, most of us you didn't originate here.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that kind of that's probably why we're talking more about starseeds, right? We're like, hey guys, um, so there's so much I want to get into. So I want to dive into, let's talk about the four. So I loved that you use the four, like four different, like, I don't know what you call them, planetary species or lines or whatnot, as the different like suits in the tarot deck, because originally, like when you're just saying Galactic Star, even though it's Galactic Star Tarot, before I saw anything, I assumed it was an oracle deck because of that, right? And then I loved that. I was like, oh my God, this is a tarot deck. And they've actually managed to like connect, these different like galactic beings with the symbolism in the tarot, which I just think is amazing. So I want to go through like the four different ones and like why you chose if there was like some thought between like why this suit is the cups and like this suit is the wands, so to speak. So wherever you want to start. I don't know if there's like if you want to start with the Lyrians or the Pleiadians, whoever.
Yeah, so actually, the one of the main reasons why we chose these four suits, and we call them star guides inside of the deck, so it's a little bit more friendly. I think there's still some, people still get a little bit, like aliens, and so they are star guides though. They are from the stars, and we're from the stars. Earth is a star, and so we chose these four because they are the most prominent ones that are showing up on Earth and have been here. And we see this because the pyramids are aligned with Sirius, right? Like they talk about this during Lion Gates and all of that. And so, Alex, actually, at the time when we're creating, so I knew tarot. I didn't really know about, the star guides and the galactic yet. And so we were talking, and these were actually the four that I knew. And so it made sense to put it into this. And I'll start with the wands. So the wands are Lyrans. So these are the, like Alex is saying, the cat beings. So like Sekhmet might have been a Lyran, and they have cat-like features, or they can be a completely cat. But they do reside in Lyra, which there are many different, or Vega, right? Vega. And there are many different other beings on there, not just the Lyrans.
And
Yeah, Lyra is the constellation, and Vega is the brightest star in that constellation. So a lot of these are their asterisms, constellations. So there's stars inside of them. Like Pleiades is not a star.
yeah,
For example, Pleiades is over 150 stars, and we know seven primary sisters and the two parents, right? But so Pleiades, though, wherever the star races are from, they're usually from constellations. But of course, sometimes they're specific stars.
yeah.
But yeah, Vega is a star inside of Lyra.
Yeah, and you'll see that the Lyrans are very, very connected to the wand suit, which is very fiery. They're very creative. They're really adventurous. There's actually avians, which are like bird-like humanoids, also star guides there, and that's who I really connect with. And they're really free-spirited, and they just love to go on many adventures, and they're very bold and independent.
And how would you say, I know you mentioned earlier, Alex, about like if you have like a strong affinity for cats, are there any other kind of like clues as to, if this might be a place that you have spent some time?
So many. So many clues. You could probably fill up the whole podcast with it. But for instance, when we're talking about Lyra, it's a little bit different when we're talking about the star beings versus star seed, right? So, like the star beings can present in certain ways. Star seeds are always human form, right? They're literally, if you think of like a dandelion, you blow a dandelion, where it lands next, it's like, okay, well, I was a dandelion in Lyra, but somebody blew this, and now I've kind of ended up here on Earth. So the star seeds might have, we depicted the wands more as like athletic, because when we think of Lyrans, first of all, they were what we believe to be the first incarnation point, the oldest incarnation point of humanids here. So they should start the deck, right? And they do tend to be like more fiery and have more of like more energy. They want to do things. They always want to be out. But when we're talking about the star beings themselves from there, because our deck, the pips, the 1 to 10, is starseed types, and the quartz are the star being types. So you'll see feline type beings in the court cards for Lyra. And yeah, Pam's right. So from there, the predominant races that are talked about there are the feline humanoids, avian types, and reptilian types.
Yeah.
And so, as someone, let's say, listening to the podcast that, feels called and interested in this topic and is trying to decipher, which, if I'm from, like, if I'm a starseed from one of these four constellations, is there anything that, other than like, obviously, of course, I think we would all just say like the one you feel most attracted to, that you feel like resonance with, is probably it, right? But are there any other like giveaways that you would say?
For sure. Yeah. So just sticking on Lyra, like having a very adventurous spirit, having like probably a sturdier body, really liking cats. And then I also think it doesn't have to be one. I am the mind that we could have been in a lot of places and we carry that along with us. Like if we have a passport, you're going to carry those stamps with you from different places you've been. That's always a part of your memories. And that's the same for, star systems we've been in. But let's say, so like Sirius, which I'm sure Pam will get into, we know these types are very logical. I'm kind of laughing because we know some people close to us are these types. Very logical. They love contracts. They love documents, right? And this is the star seed type of energy of that. Very minimalist. Pleiadians, very heart-based, right? This might be somebody like into cacao, stuff like that. So there, especially if, any of your listeners are going to get this deck and they're kind of like, hey, where did I originate? This is tarot. You can actually just ask it.
Yeah.
What's an origination point for me? Or like, what is like really connected for me? And we do have these main four, but in the major arcana, which we'll probably get to, we have many other
Yeah.
places as well.
Yeah.
And I think it's since it is a tarot deck, I think if you, for those of you that know tarot, and you identify yourself as like a Queen of Wands or a King of Wands, then yeah, you're definitely Lyran at some point. And I think what Alex has said before, the stronger energies that you feel that you're connected to might be the most recent, incarnation, or it could be like your origin. So it could be either or. And we just kind of play, we know that we've been in like everywhere. Like Alex and I, every time, we do hypnosis or we travel in the Akashic records, we're like, oh yeah, we're here now. And so I think it's, we're multidimensional and it's okay to be everywhere.
I love that. I love that because I do think there's, again, so much of like sometimes things that are boycotted, and it's not boycotted, but like, you know what I mean? Like used for wrong uses in spirituality, right? It's like we might, maybe there's one that you're like, this was my thing and I spend like a ton of lifetimes in this constellation. But also I think that makes a lot of sense to me that we probably have bopped around a bit, and maybe we have one that we liked a lot, like just like all of us have traveled around Earth and resonate with different places, and we'll go back to one place more than we might go back to other places. I love that thought of it, that you might have interacted with all of them in some way. And
Yeah.
who knows, like how old like how many lifetimes we've had, right? Maybe we've gotten to like try them all out.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the next one is the star seeds, is the Palladians of the suit of cups. And like Alex said, is the 150 star cluster. And it is the one closest to Earth and easily visible to the naked eye. I think it was probably one of the first ones I connected with. I know that we know that a lot of our students, our Pleiades, are very easy to connect with. And they're said to be like our Earth cousins, like our Earth human cousins. And the physical appearance is pretty similar. And they are very open hearted, like Alex said, cacao, charming. They're emotionally intelligent and they're deeply compassionate. And I do believe if you are drawn to be a healer, you would probably have spent time as a Palladian.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel like that was definitely one I connected with the most really early on. Um, and yeah, and what about the other two? Let's just go through them all for people so they can get a little idea.
Yeah, so the Sirius is the sword suit. Alex, do you want to talk about the Sirius?
The Sirius is actually some of the best evidence we have on this earth that's been left behind in history of visitors. There's very compelling evidence, but I believe that we've had it from all over the galaxy too. So Sirius predominantly we see from A, B, and sometimes C. So A is I kind of think of it like Harry Potter. It's like where you think of like the Griffins and more humanoid types and very intellectual. Lots of healers there too, but I see it as a major, major metropolis kind of a place with all types of beings there. Another one like that would be Orion, but just sticking to Sirius now, then B is more of the water types. And they are more like etheric, and these are people who would like to chill out and listen to music. And that's kind of how you could think of B a little bit more. These are people who are very, very drawn to water, very drawn to cetaceans like dolphins and whales.
Yeah. And I know that there is big proof on Sirius B because of the Doggin tribe, right? So they have been shown, they have been visited, like a tribe, even before like scientists knew there was a Sirius B. Yeah.
Wow,
Mhm.
that's so cool.
And we believe there's a Sirius C.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, also that
Yeah.
evidence left behind um, the Nomo who visited the Dogon tribe. This is the story, and there was very compelling evidence because they had the orbits of places that science didn't even know of. But they actually, these visitors said they were from B, and they had since left and were now living around the orbit of C, Sirius C.
Yeah. So
Wow.
Yeah.
And the Syrians are who we think of when we're thinking of the tribe that helped build the pyramids, right?
Sirius, yes, but there's also alignments with Orion.
Mm,
So Orion's belt aligns perfectly with the three great pyramids. And there's also an alignment with Leo, just because of when they were actually built was in the age of Leo. So it could have been a collaboration. Don't know,
yeah,
but there's evidence of a number of them. Yeah.
that's
yeah.
wild. Wild,
Yeah.
wild, wild. Okay, and our last one, the Arcturians.
Yeah, of the disc suit. So the disc is actually the pentacles, and inside of the Galactic Star Tarot, you'll actually see them as like holographic disc, and it's really cool. And Octurians are, Alex would say, they're experts in star navigation and immense wealth of knowledge about the cosmos. And so they travel the galaxy, and that's why we do see them here because they have traveled to Earth, and they are also advanced healers or spiritual leaders or mentors in the entire universe, actually. And they really love truth, freedom, and community and love. And so they really, I think if you really want to learn about your galactic history, you can work with the Octurians here.
Ooh, I love this. And I don't know if either of you know this. This is just a question that came up for me because I'm also like an astrology geek. Um, do you ever look into different placements in astrology as like hints as to where someone has originated from?
Do Vedic astrology. Pam and I, we love Vedic astrology. We honor Western as well, but practicing, we do Vedic. And I know that there are some like systems you can use online that, people have created to see like where's your star system type. Um, I think you can go deep seeing your report, your Vedic astrology report, especially just because it is aligned astronomically, and see the further constellations that were at play. So it definitely is something you could dive into. It's, I think, very advanced practice. Other than that, though, I mean, you can see the planets that are most connected to you here. And like, Venus, for example, Venusians are a huge star race. And so people who are very connected to that, we can see in their charts. You could go deeper and see, the further constellations in the sidereal system.
Yeah, so interesting. So interesting. I love it. And so how would you, so let's say, I think you said, Pam, that like one of the things that was really helpful for you was a past life regression. Is that how you guys recommend a lot of your clients? Like how do you work on this with your clients? Let's say if they're like, hey, I feel like I'm a starseed, or I feel like I've spent some time out there and I want to figure out, where I can connect to.
Yeah, so we actually host retreats once a year, more for our private clients. And, just the last one, we had one girl who didn't even connect to anything Starseed, and we actually did contact. So Alex and I do contact, pretty good amount throughout the year, and we're contacting, just sending love to the galaxy and receiving and seeing messages. We have made some physical contact, and definitely at last year's retreat, we saw some stuff. But she had images that came to her during the retreat, and she didn't know what it was. And after the whole contact thing, because we didn't know they all wanted it, and so we did it, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, that's who I saw." We're like, "That's a Palladian." And so that was like her future lover, that's going to like incarnate here as a Palladian. It was a fun thing, and she was very open to it. She's like, "Well, I didn't know this was for me." And I think with this deck, you're going to be open up to a lot of the higher consciousness energy and your evolution. And I do think the next step is to the stars, to the galaxy. And a lot of our students learn inside of our programs. So we have a couple. For those that want to journey with us every single month, we host cosmic ceremony inside of membership. And we, like she said, we journey to like Saturn or Venus. And it's really cool because when everybody comes back from the journey, they all say the same thing. Like we'll meet the beings and everybody will say exactly, what they saw, and everybody's the same. Like little critter beings, or they were long and with hair. Like it's really weird. It's really cool. And if you want like a deep dive into the galactic and star seeds and the energies, and even learn to work with galactic energy for healing and ascension, then it would be to join us in our academy, which Awaken Bliss Codes is part of the certification.
Oh my God, I love that. And for anyone that's listening, if you're interested in like going deeper, I'll put all the links below. But also if you're someone that's like, oh, like second guessing if you like will be able to like get a vision or like connect with that, I really am a huge believer in like the power of containers, and how when you like put yourself in a container and you have people holding space and other people holding energy, you can surprise yourself at what you're able to like download and receive sometimes, if that's something that you're like, that feels so far out of touch for me, that's an amazing place to start. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. I also love that you call them star guides. I think that that is just such an important, because it also just starts giving a clue as to like, how do we work with this energy, right? Because so many of us are used to connecting with our angels, connecting with our spirit guides, ascended masters. And these are really just like another energy consciousness form we can connect to and that we can receive wisdom and inspiration from. What do you feel is the, actually let's just bring it down to your lives. Like in your lives, what are the ways that like you've received wisdom and things that have really like helped you in your like human earthly existence from these star guides?
Me, there's a few things that really jump out that I've have felt very important contact with. So one thing in particular is healing. When I have connected with star guides of mine for physical healing, emotional healing, it is some of the most profound healing I've ever received and some of the most immediate healing. As far as guidance, I mean, the star beings who are my guides are a little bit more like not as like pinpoint as like tarot would be. They're more not like concerned with the little earth world problems, at least my star guides. But they do give like really good grounded, bigger picture advice, at least mine. And just the support and love of the galactic community. I think it's important, at least what Pam and I believe, that, we're not alone here. I think it is wild to think that we are alone in this universe. There are over 200 sextillion stars in the observable universe, which is only 6%, they think, of the universe. To think that Earth is the only habitable place, and assuming that we all have to, have the same combination of elements, I think that it's just wild to think that there aren't more beings out there. So that connection of being part of something bigger and believing that there are more advanced beings, not better, but maybe further along on the path than us, who are here to support us, is really, really valuable. And it helps us to see that bigger connection, the great work, that path back to oneness of unity consciousness. And that connection really lends itself to that.
Yeah.
I love that. I think for me, that's been like the primary thing is that like when I connect to that energy, it's not, I agree with you. I think oftentimes if I have any like earthly troubles, they're like, it's fine, whatever. You're okay. In their own loving way. And the real benefit is just like remembering these are probably not the best words, but I would say the best words that are coming to me in this moment are like remembering how magical you are and
Yeah.
remembering like how like bigger you are than
Yeah.
like what you feel like is going on in this. And then when you're like when you're tapping into that power, you're tapping into just like the it almost feels like the full breadth of your soul's like force field, right? Where like on your like normal like earthly life, you're kind of accessing a certain part. And then when you take the time and like really like welcome in these pieces of you and these like relationships that you have and these connections that you have, you're like building that energy field. And it totally just shifts then how you're going to go about your earthly business when you have that perspective of things.
Yeah, Alex and I joke, and we're always like, Earth world problems, hashtag. But I do believe that, and I do, I use practical magic to manifest the money, right? The opportunity, the physical things, and I was stuck in that for a while because I didn't have money, and so I think it was important for me to learn that, and I think when you are awakened to the star seeds and the galactic energies, I think it's the higher mission, right? And for me, that was totally true because until I tapped into this, I was just doing my magic, which is really magical. But after I actually got to experience something called samadhi, where you're just like out of your body and you're just like one with everything. And that was after receiving the codes and working with the star guides. And I think you just have to have fun with this. Alex and I have a lot of fun with this because when she channels the collective called the Council, that's where she got the codes from. They don't tell you like the exact things like she said. And, when we do our light language and stuff, one time I think it was like I was channeling something from the cracks. And it was really weird. And we didn't know what it was. We had no idea. And so we had to ask the council. And it was like really deep what they told us. Yeah, it was really, I
Wow.
can't even explain it. You just like had to be there, be in that energy, be in that, transmission. But I do believe it's like your spiritual evolution, like the next step in your spiritual evolution.
I love that. So let's talk about the major arcana and what, because that was just like, there's so much. There's so much. And I thought it was really interesting how you guys kind of put that, like, I'm very curious to hear how you like connected. Like, I'm going to have the one I connect with the most right now is the Empress. So, like, we
Oh,
can start there. So, like, the Empress and like how that connected and how they're all different. I'm sorry. This is my postpartum brain. So like my articulation skills are not what they used to be. Thank you all for your patience, but I know that you guys are like getting what I mean anyway.
yes.
So
Definitely.
I think Alex and I sat down and we were just like, okay, what is the energy of this card? What star guide really resonates with this and connects with it? And we were able to tap into many different star guides from across the galaxy for them, and even really controversial ones like Alex said, like the reptilians. So I think they really, and we had a long talk about reptilians like way in the beginning. She's like, I want you to tell me what you think of this because I didn't know, and she just wanted like the intuitive, and she's like, that's what I got too. So we don't think they're all evil or they're a bad race. And so we do have a reptilian. I think it is the devil though, right?
I don't
Devil.
remember.
Yeah,
And
it is.
yeah, but I think that was just to help people connect.
Yeah.
But it even says in the guidebook, like when you read the devil card, and they are from Draco, the star system Draco, because I think people forget that there are all types of these beings in almost every star system. So there are reptilian types in Sirius, there's reptilian types in Pleiades, right? That doesn't mean all because beings are of a kind or they look away that they are just bad. In fact, I am of the mind that that's a very false narrative. It's a fear narrative. And when I've channeled reptilian beings before, they're like, well, we helped share that Kundalini technology you love so much, right? Because if you think about it, the Kundalini is the snake, right? And so there's so much around that energy here on this planet. So we know that they have a major influence here. So I think there's a false narrative to that. So when we put the devil there, it's
Yeah.
about that too. Making a choice of what to believe in, finding the truth for yourself. So that was important for us, to put that in there and, to choose love over fear.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I also feel like whenever I see the devil, it's like a false sense of entrapment,
Yeah,
right?
that was it. Yeah.
So you're like looking at that, and that is so interesting. It makes sense though. Like I think in general, just like when you think about like snakes or reptiles in history, right? There's like great power and like kind of reverence with them, but also this like danger, fear
Yeah.
Hmm.
thing with them. So it's just they're like more polarizing beings. Do
Yeah.
you believe? I also believe like now also with like the internet and like conspiracy theories, like things can just get like so distorted. It's like a big game of like telephone when someone's like, "The sky is blue," and then eventually it's like, my foot is purple or whatever, and you're like, where did that become? Um, with the reptilians, do you find that like when you see, because like the overarching narrative is that like a lot of people in power tend to be reptilians. Does that connect with your like beliefs on that race?
So personal belief on that is that that's a fear narrative. Whenever anything is being shoved down our throats or like shoved in our faces like that, I tend to question it.
Yeah.
And I look at, history, and I especially that Kundalini thing really popped out to me. Even on the Caduceus, the staff of healing, it's snakes. There's so much evidence here that there's a lot of beauty and there's a lot of empowerment and a lot of remembering and spiritual enlightenment that is connected with the symbology of the snake. And with this idea that reptilians are in power, there are reptilian overlords, and they've like, overtaken government. My thought is I would question that. I
Yeah.
think that there are power plays for sure happening in the powers that be across the world. I won't deny that. My question is there some sort of a false narrative there to detract or, kind of give us a false illusion or something else to distract us around that, right? Or to demonize, certain things that is taking us off track. I do think that there's been, you know, some things kind of planted in power. I'm not sure that it would be that though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we believe that if they wanted to take over, they would have already with all the technologies and wisdom and magic and, just like everything that the star beings have, they could take over Earth already. But they're not because I think we really truly believe like their purpose is to help our planet ascend, right? Planetary evolution, to be a part of the galactic system again.
Yeah, and I think there's also like I agree. I think it's just like a narrative that's gotten blown out. But on the element of like as you're going through like the different races of star beings, right? And how they all have different like where you're like, okay, well, people from the Pleiades are more heart centered and might be more healers, and you might see more like cacao ceremonialists. Or I've also heard like that they're working a lot with their throat chakra, so a lot of like speakers and people that are sharing messages like that or whatnot. So it's also kind of like those certain like those gifts and those qualities that come from those experiences lend themselves to certain jobs, right?
Mhm.
Where you might have someone that, like you were saying, like I think the Arcturians, right, that are a little bit more like from, that are like on top of things or whatnot, right? That might naturally attract a certain career or a
That's
certain
true.
like thing. So that's what I was just thinking about in that regard of like it would make sense to me if these different beings have different qualities that you might see like little like clusters of them in certain like professions.
I think that is true. I think, a lot of this too comes from the thought of, are these beings in service to the all and the oneness, or are they on a path of service to the self? And these are more of our advanced teachings in our programs. So we can't go that too deep into it today, but that's really the two paths that we see. And so that doesn't necessarily mean evil or bad. It means people are making choices of how to experience, and we also have our own sovereignty of how to experience that. And so I do think, so like when we talk about the reptilians and could they have certain traits, things I've noticed is okay, so maybe there could be the Kundalini root, the very spiritual root, the healing root. And I think just speaking of galactic history, reptilians have always been kind of connected with trade routes and kind of like messing up with trade routes and like creating discourse in the galaxy because of that. So I think because there are certain sects of them as well as with other star races who are of the thought of service to self, and they have been traditionally, as far as we've channeled, involved with these trade routes and making issues with them. We might see people involved with like business or banking and stuff like that who might have some sort of an affinity to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. I love, I had never thought of that because I guess just in my own ignorance, I had always assumed that when I was connecting with any of the star guides that they were of the oneness, right?
Mhm.
And like obviously I always put that caveat when I'm going
Yeah.
in to connect. But do you feel like they have that same kind of free will like we do? Like all of us have the opportunity to sometimes be of the oneness and then in other moments be more of the self, right?
Yeah, I think so from what Alex and I have channeled is they do, and most of them work through it. And that's why they are coming now to help us, or because Earth is like the biggest playground right now where we can go through our karmas and learn and our lessons and stuff. And so that's why we have incarnated here, and they're coming to help us because they've been through it. They're like I don't know how many years, but millions of years ahead of us, you know? And so we do believe that, yes, but most of them have worked through it.
Okay. And this is kind of a left field question, but I didn't want to forget to ask you because I love how you shifted the suit of pentacles. So it's not money. It's these like discs that you were talking about are super valuable. Can you just tell me a little bit about that? Like what was the download there?
Yeah, so we got a pretty strong download that like I said earlier, like they don't really want to be involved with the little petty earth world problems. And so it does, a major focus in this capacity because Pam and I, we do teach on money and more abundance and prosperity. We don't demonize that at all. We think everything has its place. When we're talking about the ascension energies and the bigger energies of the oneness, we didn't want to detract from that message and that energy and that purity and that heightened level of awareness by bringing more money into it because that is more of Pam and I believe we're going to move through that too in humanity. At some point, that's going to be outdated, right? Because that's a scarcity energy. Scarcity is always the opposite of the unity energy, and so we didn't want to bring that into this deck.
I love that. And was the download specifically about these discs? Like there is like this thing that exists in the discs, or was that kind of just like a metaphorical image
Yeah.
that you thought was like a good?
Well, the
I
Arcturians basically they came through and they were like, "Listen, we don't play with the money thing anymore. You guys will get it eventually." But like they understood there was a system here, and the suggestion was just call it discs and make it like holographic, multidimensional, something very, very precious. So you can turn that into whatever it means to you, right? Because we are still following the Rider-Waite-Smith um, energy here. And so pentacles, if you're doing a reading with our deck, pentacles can represent money for you and resources, but it goes well beyond that here as well, whatever's precious and dear to you. But yeah, they were just like, can you call it discs
yeah.
and make it look multidimensional?
I
Yeah, 'cause
love it.
if you when you get the deck and when you look at it, you can feel that it's like unlimited inside of this disc. It's just like a swirling of energies and there's like so much potential, not just money. And so resources are very important. And I think even in the galactic world, they need resources to power up things. But we do think it's infinite energy.
I love it. I love it. Do you guys have a deck available? Like, do either of you have a deck with you, or is
No,
it
we didn't
still?
even get it yet. I think because it's like holidays and I think like decks are being delayed a little bit, so we didn't get it yet. But can I share one of my favorite cards though?
Yeah.
Okay. So one of my favorite cards, and I think it was one of the first cards that we got, was the Hierophant. Because it's
I
the
knew you were going to say
mantid. You
that.
knew I was gonna say that. It's the mantid being. And Alex and I, if there are mantids out there, so we believe that there are mantid hybrid humans, and
Ooh.
they meet up and they have like these meetings where they have like these secret bow, and they can, so if you have the bow, you know you're a mantid, and so we're like trying to get in. And so
Oh my God.
Just
Tell
like
me
made up our own
more.
vow. We
yeah,
hope one
we
day
don't,
somebody will see us and be like, wait, you're one of us. Yes, we are.
yeah.
I'm
And
just like
so
imagining you guys at like Whole Foods being like,
to every, yeah. We just
Maybe-
really made up our own. I don't know, it might be it. We don't know. We haven't met another person who, so like they telepathically know though, but they are the divine teachers of the galaxy, the Hierophant, and so the Mantids. And so we're hoping to get in on the circle though.
oh my God. So where are the mantids from?
So
Where they
from
can,
a lot of different places. There's one thought too that they're like connected to what's called the founders of this galaxy and the first seeders of this galaxy. So that's another reason that they would be found in a lot of places.
so
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so when the Hierophant comes up and you see the mantid, like what's the message that you feel like that has for people?
I think it's like higher teachings, and you're asking to be stepping out into your being a teacher, to being a teacher, to being a leader, and to share your wisdom and to break free of the norm, you know.
Yeah, I love that. Alex, what about you? Do you have a favorite card in the deck?
Oh, there's so many. I do love I love the Empress too. That one just like really jumped out at me, just so beautiful and like that abundant creation energy. I love the Strength card as well. There's a beautiful woman depicted there with a dragon, and dragons being all over. But again, I think of that like very serious A energy. Yeah, those would be my favorite. But I do want to say one thing too, since Pam brought up the mantids, is we have gotten a download around insects in the
Oh
galaxy.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Oh,
so we're always like ant beings, okay, bee beings, very connected. And Pam and I have had like significant evidence around this with our regressions and getting these downloads. And at one point, we were doing contact together in Joshua Tree. We did have successful contact, and we got downloads around the insectoids. And essentially, our question was like, why are there so many? And the answer was, well, look at your planet too. What are most of the beings on your planet? They're insectoids. And they said that's basically the same for the whole galaxy. The microcosm is the macrocosm. And that's why there's so many different types of insectoids here. And, in cave drawings and stuff, you'll see little like gray men, the types, but then you'll see like ant beings with them or other types of like mantid beings. So these like insectoid beings have been around here for a very long time too.
oh my God. That makes so much sense.
Right.
That
Yeah,
makes so much sense. Oh my
yeah,
God. That is really, really,
yeah.
really wild.
And I think if you are, pretty advanced in working with the galactic history or star seeds, then you will notice a lot of Easter eggs that Alex had put in the deck, and it's like, oh, like you'll know that there's like a lot that she put in there that was like, oh, this is this, because Hay House did ask us, do we really need like some of the things? We're like, yes, we do, because for the people who know, you will know. Like you will know what that means. Like it's really important in the galactic community.
Oh my God. I'm so excited to get this deck. I
Yeah.
cannot
Which
wait.
one? I think there's like the Eight of Cups. It's like Roswell. Is that the
Yeah, Eight
one?
of Cups
Yeah.
is Roswell. We also
Roswell.
have
Yeah.
like there's like a little Men in Black shout
Men in
out on the Three
Black.
of Wands. We
Yeah.
have my favorite book in the whole world, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. We have a pretty big shout out there. Yeah.
Oh my God, I love it. I love it. So when you mentioned like contact a few times, and I feel like I know that like our listeners are going to be like, okay, what does that process look like? Can you just like walk them through, like if they're sitting with you, what does that look like for them?
Yeah, so we have like a contact protocol. Shout out to Stephen Greer, and his CE5 was a major inspiration. That's where we both started with contact, actually, just sitting in my bedroom with my mother,
Oh my gosh, that was crazy. I like
right?
passed out. So I was sitting and then, we were doing the contact and they said I just like passed out. And then I woke up when we were done and I was like, no, I was awake the whole time, but I wasn't. Yeah.
Wow, I
Yeah.
love it.
So we have a process for creating contact experiences, and we do this on retreat. Like Pam said, we weren't planning it last time, but then everyone was like, "Please!" Like, okay, I guess we're doing contact retreat again. But basically, there's different like levels that we can connect with, and the whole CE5 protocol, which we go beyond that now. We have our own protocol, but it is technically CE5. So CE means close encounter, and type 5 is when it's human initiated. So we'll come in a group. It's most powerful in a group, and we have a whole protocol we go through to make everybody feel comfortable. This is very heart-based. So we tend to we use cacao in our ceremony, we use chanting, we use sacred instruments to really open our hearts and connect with these star beings, because hey, we want those law of one, service to all beings coming through. And we use the awakened bliss codes to create a sacred space. And the level of contact will be different depending on how comfortable everybody is. So it could be telepathic, it could be physical. We have had physical contact experiences before. So whatever feels most comfortable for you. It just could be like an etheric type of healing. We do have a pretty crazy contact experience I could
Tell us.
share.
Tell
Okay.
us.
Yeah. Which one? I don't know.
I know we have a few. So on retreat, I'll let you share the retreat ones. Pam, I'll share what happened in the house in Vermont.
Okay. Yes, that
Yeah,
one.
okay. So very early on contact experience. My mom is the one who got me into all the woo-woo from a very young age. So
Oh,
she's been through all
awesome.
my programs. She was just sending me tarot cards earlier today, like a reading. So naturally, she wanted to get in on the contact. And this was like kind of new at the time. And it was the day before Easter. We did contact. It was just like one of those experiences, that just like stick with you. Like it just felt so salient, the energy, but nothing really happened. Next morning, it's Easter. So my mom is like setting the table. We have an Easter tablecloth, and she screams. I run downstairs and she's like, Alex, there's two. And this Easter tablecloth that we have had for as long as I've been alive, and everybody knows this tablecloth, suddenly there's two of them. It was very weird because my mentor at the time was like, and he has worked with Stephen Greer. He's like, okay, go get a microscope. So I actually bought a microscope to look at this thing, and the tablecloths were exactly identical. They had the same amount of fading. They had the same stains on them in exactly the same places. It was an exact duplicate, and it was right after contact.
Wow, that
I
is
know.
wild. Like, what in the world?
Yeah.
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 Like, you guys just messing with us? Like, is this fun for you?
We still check if like there will be more, if some go missing.
Yeah, and it was really
That's
weird because
wild.
I forgot what I was doing with Alex, but I was channeling something for her house, like something about, because her house is actually really magical. There's like a house spirit. And I was visiting, and so I'm like, oh, let me connect to the house, make sure, I'm welcome. And then I was like, oh, there's a portal and it was in the closet. I didn't know, but I told her where it was, and she's like, that's the closet where the cloth is. Yeah, so that
Oh
was
my
really cool. Yeah. But
Because it's right next to the fireplace. So it's actually, you can't get service. Nothing can go through that closet. And so we started to think, oh, maybe they felt safest
safe, yeah.
because, some of these star beings are like tracked by the government and stuff. And so they might have felt safest in a place that it was totally blocked. It's like a Faraday cage.
Yeah. So yeah, so
Oh my
actually
gosh.
we do contact around like mountains or like the edge of a forest because they can hide if they need to and they feel safe. So they actually will make contact if they feel safe too. And so my first one was actually just in my balcony and I saw my first shooting star. Nothing really crazy happened. But when we did contact at the retreat, I think usually we will do our, sacred practice or raise our vibration and we'll receive messages and they'll tell us who is coming and where they're coming from so that we're not looking around the entire property for them, you know what I mean? And so we all
Yeah.
got like the back. And so we went to the back and the contact before that, Alex and I actually kept seeing something like this one area and we were like in a portal. Like she thought she was beamed up. And even one of our students said she was half gone. And
Went missing.
yeah, she went missing. And I didn't see her because I was like kind of in it. I didn't get beamed up, but I felt it. And then that's also the time where we saw like this light go from the ground and it went all the way up to the sky and back down. So we know it's not a plane because it can't go to the ground, and it's not human because it went all the way to the sky. And it did it like 7 times. We do have a video, but you can't see anything. You just hear everybody, oh my gosh, look, it's over there, it's over there. So it's really fun.
With a flashlight walking.
Yeah.
That's what it looked like. But then all of a sudden it shot up to the top of the tree line, went across, shot
Yeah.
back down, looked like it was walking, shot up.
Yeah. And so the second retreat, her and a couple other of our students also felt the portal. I was looking at something else. There was other lights happening here, but they were like here and they took pictures. I'll send it to you after. But there was
Yes.
one, and it was a star being. It was a star guide. Yeah, and it was exactly where they saw it at. And you can't see it if you just look at it, but in her picture, she caught him. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I love it. I love it. Okay, so we're at time, but I have one more question
Okay.
because I've had a couple of my own experiences, but one particular I'm thinking of right now. What are your thoughts on like the grays, right? Like is that just like something that you think that like Hollywood made up, or is that like a certain race that now just like got the like main attention of people because that was the first association a lot of humans had?
I think they're totally real. I think that there is a reason. I mean, like there's always, I hate to get super conspiracy theory on your show, but there's predictive programming, right? And so there's a reason that we're always seeing that same image. I do think they're real. There's a lot of discussion in this community around, are they good? Are they bad? And I think there's so many different types of grays, but I think one thing very interesting about them that a lot of people have channeled and shared, even from contact experiences, is some of them are, they're kind of like vessels. They're synthetic. They're made to kind of carry out what higher level beings would do. I'm not sure if they're sentient or not. They're typically some of the smaller ones. And then those that are believed to be from Zeta Reticuli, that there's a lot of evidence to on this planet, those are also smaller grays. And we know Roswell was said, I'm not sure if we can believe those reports,
Right.
but at least what whistleblowers say too, that they were smaller grays. Then there's the idea of the taller grays that might have more brain capacity. And they're the ones who are kind of thought that there are some of them that are trying to help in governments and some of them that are trying to create some discourse there. I totally think grays are real. And
Yeah.
again, I'll just stick with that mindset of what I said about the reptilians, is that they could be of the law of one, or, service to self.
I think we also had a theory that they could, like the smaller ones, the non-sentient could be like AI, like what we're experiencing now, and they were created too. So if you need that representation in your mind.
That is so interesting. Yeah, I had an experience back when I was living in Santa Monica like several years ago, and I think it was at the same time I was like actively connecting to the Pleiades like every day. That was like my spiritual practice, or a big part of it. And one night I was like half asleep or so at night by myself and saw what looked like a gray, or to my like qualification, like come in through my window, like come up to my bed. And then I have no memories after that, except I woke up in the morning and I had a mark on like the bottom, like the back of like my like side kind of area here. And it was so strange because it almost looked like if you had had like a really nasty rash and it hadn't like healed completely, where it was like kind of like these like white like things that were in like a non-symmetrical thing. It was really random. But again, because like I mean I have like some pretty out there dreams, and most of my experiences have come in meditation, not in sleep time. So I didn't like push too much into it because I was also like, of all the beings, like it looks too much like the like of all the beings, that was the one I get, like I feel like I'm like, I thought I'd be more creative,
Yeah.
and but then like years later I was watching some like documentary on like Gaia about like close encounters, and they showed the marks, and I was like I like freaked
Whoa.
out. I freaked out because I was like, that was my mark. And I was just like, okay. And it's so funny because I've always like, yeah, I've always joked I've like been, one of my things when I was like dating before I met my husband would be like, within like the first couple dates, I would mention Ancient Aliens, and that would be like the barometer check of like, so do you watch Ancient Aliens a lot? You want to watch that with me? I like actually did that on a couple dates. I'd be like, come over, let's watch Ancient Aliens and talk about how we feel about it. Uh, and so I'd always be like, okay, like beam me up whenever you're ready. Like I'm available. But yeah, so who knows? Who knows? But I, like I said, like you, I really don't think, I don't feel like there's like a lot of maliciousness there. I feel really love and exploration. And so I'm like, it doesn't freak me out or scare me. I'm like, if you needed to like get some information, go for it. I'm a safe space.
Wow, I really think they were like giving you stuff for the body to help you with like codes for your body to help you ascend with that. Yeah,
Mm.
that's what I received. And Alex knows that sometimes when I fly, there's this weird thing that appears at the back of my neck, like the mouth of God, because I always fall asleep in there, like right here, and it always appears after I fly. And I think it's they probably sending me something. I don't know. Yeah.
I also definitely feel like there is um, something really magical when I'm flying.
Yeah.
Like the veil is like very, very thin.
Yes.
I feel like the downloads I get when I'm flying are just like nuts. Like
Yeah.
absolutely nuts. Like it's just like they're like, okay, she's closer or whatever. I'm like
Yeah,
a little
yeah,
bit closer,
that's what
I
we
guess.
said. That's exactly what we said.
Yeah, I love it. I was like, my favorite place to meditate is on a flight. I'll just like put on some like healing music and just like go for the ride because I always have like such trippy experiences.
Mhm.
It's so cool. Oh my God, it's so much fun. We all need to hang out.
Contact.
Contact, yes. Well, thank you guys so much for being on the podcast. I am so stoked for this deck. I cannot wait for everyone to get their hands on it, myself included. It just feels like such a fun, tangible way for us to interact with our star guides and to start exploring and to start opening up those conversations and those downloads and the channels and everything like that. I'll put all the links below to everything so that you guys can pre-order the deck if you want to hop in that membership that they have. And like, I think that's also a really great way to start if you're listening to this and you're like, I'm intrigued. I have no idea. Like, I've never had one of these experiences before. Like, that is a great space to be like, let me just tune in once a month or whatever it is, like in that group and be guided and just start opening yourself up to those experiences. So thank you guys for creating all
Oh,
this
Yeah.
thank you so
beautiful
much.
Thank you
stuff.
for having us on. It was so fun.
Yeah,